it's all a test.
Oh, alright.
Alright, guys, gals, people, them, thou art listening to the Tap In podcast, and today's guest is Zach Hanson. Welcome,
Hello.
Zach.
Hello.
Now, I've known you for what feels like a decade, but I know it's really only been about 8 years.
Yeah, close to.
But within that 8-year time span, I've learned some really cool stuff about music. And most of that is due to the fact that we're in a band together and we do a lot of really experimental jam sessions.
Yeah, you learn a lot.
So, you're a drummer, and I want to ask you, what does it feel like to slowly have your job consumed by technology as drum machines slowly take over the music industry? I mean, what's that like?
It feels awful, man. Knowing that I'm so easily replaceable. But that, I guess that points to an eventuality of all of us being replaceable by electronic things, right?
Yeah, that's really scary, isn't it, to be honest? The fact that soon technology will be implemented that will make it easier for millionaires to become billionaires, and billionaires to become trillionaires, and then trillionaires to become Brazilianaires. Actually, I think the next one's like... Here, let me look it up. Oh, so what is it?
The next step above trillionaire is quadrillionaire, then quintillionaire, then sextillionaire, septillionaire, octillionaire, nonillion, decillionaire.
I mean, there's clearly one of those that people are striving for more than others. You know?
Dodecadillionaire.
Yeah, it's the dodecadillionaire one. Dillionaire. Anyway. Oh, well. So, the thing about being that rich, though, is I imagine you have to separate from a certain community of people just to get to that point. You know what I mean? Like, isn't it true that, like, once you get over a certain amount of wealth, like, you just stop seeing pennies?
Stop seeing people?
You just stop seeing... You just... No.
Both?
Yeah, where you're like... They're seeing people turn into pennies.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, oh, we can process that one. Jeez. And honestly, I feel like that happens a lot where people are valued by their employers in the long run, like...
Monetarily?
Yeah, like, I imagine that some people are even only valued based on how long they can work somewhere. And in that regard, like... elderly people have a hard time finding jobs. That's what I see and hear. But if you're a musician, then by the time you're an elderly person, you're like...
Experience.
Yeah, you're like an ascended master. Like, do you ever find yourself wondering what Jimi Hendrix would sound like if he was around today or like 10 years ago? You know, like how seasoned... like Elder Wolf Hendrix would hear and sound like, you know what I mean?
Kayla Hendrix.
Well, I mean, you know, Steve Vai is one of those guitar players that's made it very long in life, and he's, I would say, a transcendent master. He describes having experiences that are... you know, they're trans reality or whatever, you know, they're metaphysical and outside of the regular spectrum of what we would think about just to play guitar.
So how much Victor Wooten have you been reading?
That's a good question. I actually haven't been reading any.
Oh, alright. Just,
But I did read The Music Lesson, and... it was awesome. I heard from Victor Wooten himself that the second music lesson's finished. And that he's finished writing it, and he might just go into editing now, but it should be out soon. I'm excited. Victor Wooten has a very important philosophy on music that also seems like just common sense. Like, if you're not a musician, and you're even curious about what music can provide for our life, just open up that book. It's really pretty easy to read. It's from the perspective of a young 20-year-old Victor Wooten who can't pay rent, just like a lot of musicians I know.
What was the title of that book again?
The Music Lessons. The Music Lesson by Victor Wooten. To be honest, it's one of my favorite books ever, but that's because I like books that are applicable to me.
Oh.
Yeah, like in school, I hated reading books I did not care about. You know, I mean, granted, I'm wearing a Question Authority shirt backwards and inside out. Well, I guess it's facing the right way, but...
Aren't you doing a handstand right now?
Actually, to be honest, I'm actually just a ghost, and this interview is only happening with Zach Hanson, and to be honest, he's so insane that y'all are hearing his voices in his head too. And isn't that something?
Yeah, I've figured out how to project myself digitally and render my brainwaves into audio sounds at this point. I'm looking to go for a full holographic resolution in the next, couple months.
Damn, dude, you're just that good at drums, I guess. I heard that after you hit the drums 10 million times, that you just get like a wish. You know, a genie pops out of your drum kit, and then he's like, "What would you like?" And then you're like, "I would like perfect timing and also polyrhythmics in both my hands and feet, while I can also use Stephen Hawking's level computer technology to play drum machines that previously I was afraid of working with, but now that they're fully integrated into me via this singularity called a body, so much is possible that I'm not even afraid anymore." Let me tell you. It's then being one of Zach's voices, it just means so much to me that moments like this just really lend themselves to a certain idea that has nothing to do with one thing or the other. But in reality, the truth of imagination is that existing...
I wonder if like the style or the flavor of the genie would like be affected by the type of beats that you played, right?
Oh shit! So
yeah, you get like different attitudes and wishes and styles.
Like, I am the polka genie. Right? Yeah. It's like System of a Down just unlocked polka genie, but they were metal and from the 90s, and they're like, no one's gonna listen to this. And they're
what
like,
kind of wish do you want?
It all makes sense. It all makes sense now, actually. That's Jeez, okay, so let me ask you this question. You're a theist, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're on the fence about that at all? Or is it like you're 100% like you have experiences that lead to your faith in a god?
I think that I do. Every experience, I wake up every morning, and maybe not immediately in the morning, but sometime during the day, look around and I'm like, man, this is great. How could all of this perfectness have happened by accident? And I don't mean perfectness as in there's no struggle, but all of the perfect circles, the cycles, the sunlight moving down into plants, moving up into consumed, through animals and being eaten by everything, and then the poop that comes out, the excrement, the waste is used by the earth to fertilize the new cycle. And
totally.
The fact that our waste, our excrement, is essentially biodegradable, and not only that, but useful to the very planet that we come from. I don't know.
Oh no, you sound great, dude. You sound great. That's all very poetic, wonderful stuff. It sounds like when you talk about your beliefs that you're coming from a very genuine place within yourself. Does God inspire you?
Probably, yeah, absolutely. I mean, but I feel like absolutely God is in everything. the fact that this chair that I'm sitting in is held up by the laws of physics and gravity and time and space reflects God. The fact that people make fun of God and make symbols of the devil and any other kind of, it's all a reflection of something.
That's interesting. You said that about the symbolism of the devil. Like, I gotta ask you, do you see that there's some sort of balance between the symbologies where, even from within the contexts of a Christian Luciferian devil, that kind of Satan figure is what gives the total, that total evil that would be present would have to be what gives the idea of complete good its power, because
its appeal,
the appeal of it, I suppose. But the interesting thing to me is that as much as you believe in God, there's people who profess Satan, and there's actually a few different ways that people do that. I'm actually not too certain about some of the stuff, but my understanding is that it's an atheistic gathering at this point, and that and I'm sure that there's some demigurgery. I don't know if that's demigurgery. I don't know if that's a word. It sounds like an instrument, though.
Yeah.
Or a magic. It sounds like a magic card, dude. Demigurgery. It's just like a human vomiting all these demons. Any hoozles. I think that there's it's an interesting thing that happens today where, you meet people who believe in God and you meet people who believe in Satan, but both of them don't seem like horrible people that are trying to hurt other people. After having met both of y'all, I gotta say that it's interesting to appreciate the little things in each person without polarizing the entire playing field with ideas of it has to be all one way or the other. Personally, I try to live a life where there's a acknowledgement of both archetypes.
Kind of a live and let live situation.
I'm not sure what that means.
Well, it's like an understanding that everybody's got their own point of view, and that you can withdraw things from that and grow from experiences that you don't necessarily agree with, but can grow from. And I don't know, that's what I kind of thought you were talking about.
Yeah, I feel like that does sound about right. It's not about convincing somebody about what you believe in, more about just seeing their belief system as a fascinating part of nature that is to be respected, like anything, like the ocean, or the stars. Or the stars are a better example because we don't understand them as much, and so from any given perspective we could think that the earth is flat. Oh, have you seen that Mostly for Millennials show?
I don't think so.
Oh, it's so funny. In one episode, this dude is dressed up as the globe, and he's passing out flyers that say "Save the Earth," which is like it's ridiculous.
Save me.
Yeah, which is ridiculous because it's like killing the planet, having paper flyers out, and at one point, it's clear that he's wearing a globe-shaped Earth, and then a guy wearing flat Earth on his shirt comes out of nowhere, and he's wearing like a flat Earth around his waist, and they just fight each other until the police come. Right? And people are screaming, "That's not what America's about." And it's so interesting because it's like, what if that's not what America's about? But holding space for people to be as weird as they can, to the extent that they're not hurting other people, is what life is about. Somehow having the opportunity to dive deep inside of yourself and tap into some sort of weird compassion that you can share just by being there. Just by saying, "Oh, I see you. You're existing right now. You're not You're not here. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's what being a bass player is. A lot of times, you know, that a lot of times the other, and this isn't just true for bass players. I want to say that all the musicians in a band can help hold space for the other musicians, especially when you're playing very complicated time signatures. You know, if you're doing your part correctly and somebody messes up their part, you can really just listen for the one on another person's part in the song, and I know I rely on you heavily for that, and hopefully I can help you if you ever need help, but you're really pretty on point.
You say listen for the one,
Yeah.
and that reminds me of something we were talking about earlier about time signatures and I don't know, just kind of the nature of coming around to things. I don't know, more circles.
Yeah, so like cyclical cycles, you know, like the seasons, things like that. Yeah, something I think is weird is like, do you think that karma is cyclical? Like it's this ever revolving wheel, and like sometimes around the same time of year I end up going through similar problems as I was going through last year. Like I know there's certain times a year where I get more anxious than other times, and that's because certain traumatic things that have happened to me that I think about way too much. But talking about those things does help from time to time, but I have to do that in a rhythm too, you know.
Yep.
Just yesterday I was listening to a song that I had recorded 3 years ago. I had been playing, it's a really pretty weird story. I had been playing guitar in my apartment at the time, and my friend calls me to tell me that my oldest friend had committed suicide. And I welled up with all this emotion, and I couldn't be on the phone anymore because there was really nothing else to be said. And I hung up and I recorded the song on my phone, and I just played these chords and sang this song and recorded it all. And, you know, I listened to that yesterday for the first time in, like 3 years or something, 2 years, you know, just as long ago. Like, it's hard to listen to, and it made me super emotional, and I feel like it was just right around this time too, to be honest. But that mystery has always eluded me.
I think it's due to the, I don't want to say the fact, but maybe speaking into our nature, our circular nature in itself, that we go in circles. And not only do the seasons, but so do we. We have our set patterns. We're basically permutations of the past, right? Living out our own cycle. And that's, I don't know, we're habit creatures, right? We, for the most part, like our routines. We like to wake up and maybe not do something if that's your routine, you know, to have an A routine. But it's still a routine. It's still a pattern that you're following. And yeah, it's everywhere.
Dude, you know what? Having a morning routine is really important to me.
Oh yeah.
Like, I try to play music first thing in the morning every day. And that action puts my mindset into a place where I'm feeling like everything's music that day. Like, all my interactions with people are music. But what's interesting about that, and I think you know something about this too, because I always see you playing drums when you're riding your bike. I don't know if that's safe or not. Let me just digress and say, I don't know if that's safe. I don't recommend it for anybody listening right now.
Don't try this at home, folks.
But, you know, music, in my opinion, is a form of yoga.
Yeah, definitely. It's a mantra in and of itself. Another kind of cycle or discipline or repetition. It's a circle that you make yourself do, right?
Yeah, and I was talking about this with my girlfriend, how I wanted a new sound system or something, and she was like, well, just self-discipline yourself into getting a sound system. And it was like, oh, she figured it out. She found out the secret, and it's self-disciplining yourself and to accomplish anything you want. Mm-hmm. And then along the way, you find out if you really want it or not. That's what's interesting.
Yeah.
And I think that's just like music, because when we're jamming, sometimes we'll play some stuff that isn't like, we just don't want. We're like, I don't like this.
Move on. Keep going.
Like, get out of this room.
Yeah.
Playing music and jamming is like moving from room to room in a weird exhibit. That's how I think about it. Like, each sound is a different feeling. Each song is a different action through time and space. And that's something that's cool about what we were talking about in the beginning, was how having, circular rhythms comes back around to how in music you can make your own time. You know what I mean? Like 4/4 on Ableton isn't the same as Zach 4/4. And I find that we speed up sometimes.
Yeah, I was about to say Zach 4/4 is not even always the same as Zach 4/4.
I like it though. I like it. It's fun. To be honest, the transformation of music that happens when we play music is something that gets me out of bed. And those kinds of fun times can be had for everything, I think. Literally everything. Even, or especially when you're kind of suffering. Oh, please.
I'm sorry. I was going to say it's whatever you dedicate your time and energy into, especially if you're in a bad place, if you're giving your time and energy to kind of stewing in that and not really doing anything or creating anything, or you're just kind of slowly collapsing like a flan in a cupboard, as Eddie Izzard said.
Goodness gracious. That's hilarious. Okay, Zach, so one thing we like to do together, besides play music, is play Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
So Magic the Gathering, for those of y'all who don't know, is a card game that is hard to explain in terms of what it is, because it's just got so many different factors and elements. Yeah. Well, it's got 5 elements. Ooh. But let's count them. Earth. Wait, I'm in the Avatar world right now. Jeez.
we got 5 basic mana types. You got mountain, which is kind of red, right? Like your fire and your lightning, and then you've got your forest, which is kind of like trees and, big things and growth, and then you've got your white mana, which is the plains, and that's where you've got kind of your abundance of life, but also things that can fly and move about, and you've also, it's, very orderly and straight and flat. You can see everything.
Yeah, in that regard, it's like chess, right?
Yeah.
But then, because it's so fantastic and mystical, it's a lot like Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, for sure. It's made by the same people, I believe. Wizards of the Coast.
Then it all makes sense.
Yeah.
The concept of the game, like Dungeons and Dragons, is to have fun. But you can crush your opponents too.
It's like with any game, there are varying levels of play. You can choose to just go straight at it and I'm gonna win. I'm gonna Dungeons and Dragons. I'm gonna beat the quest and I'm gonna get the most experience and I'm gonna kill the most amount of things. And then there's the people that come into a party and they're like, well, I'm gonna use my mage hand to drop your pants in the middle of combat so you can't take extra actions, and
oh my gosh.
And just kind of move around and play within that.
And you know what? The thing about playing cards or playing Magic the Gathering and cards, I suppose, is that it does invigorate you, but I feel straight up stimulated on adrenaline after I've played a game of Magic, whether I've lost or won.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think I've won one and lost one today against Mr. Oz here. Oh, yeah, by the way, I call Zach Oz. Yep.
Yeah.
Where did you get that name?
I worked at a summer camp, a Cub Scout camp, for 2 years as a lifeguard, and there was already a big Zach there, Zach Mullins, and they tried to call me Little Zach, and they're like, but you're like bigger than a lot of the other people here, and they couldn't call me Little Zach, so Big Zach one day is like, I'm gonna call you Other Zach, or Oz, and it just kind of stuck. And then I worked at the Alamo Draft House in the kitchen, and there was a Zach there, and I don't know, I kind of like it.
I think it's nice to take a name. I have a very provocative name. My name is William Allen Ross, and my initials spell war, and it's kind of jarring. Let me be honest. It's like it's never not.
War.
Yeah, it's never not been kind of provocative to my nature. Let me say, but ultimately, when I was going through most of my existential life crises,
Tests.
Yeah, my life tests where, you float through life and, a lot of weird stuff happens, and then you float out of the other bog, a new person, and having a few more answers about what you are. And at the end of that journey, I decided that I would retain the name War because I think that the identity was enough for me to really work with on a personal level. Like, the amount of work I felt that I needed to do to be happy and become more comfortable as a person could be done by having a ridiculous name like War.
It's an extra, layer over you, an extra, kind of shield or a banner or a totem.
A totem, a war
right?
totem. Well,
hey.
I wonder how many people project that idea onto me just simply because they're aware of my identity. But it's strange because I don't feel as though I'm the only person who's at war with society, or in a sense with themselves via the interaction with society, because we're all facing struggles, and everybody has something that they could consider the crisis in their life that demands attention and emotion and work and peace, and the parts of ourselves that really demand a sort of wrestling with our desires on top of what we know we need in front of what we want.
Priorities.
Yeah, the priorities. Yeah, you see, like, there's so much about myself that doesn't have anything to do with my name. You know what I mean? Like, my priorities have very little to do with my name.
Yeah.
But people like Alex Gray, dude, their name is their priority.
So a brand,
that sounds.
they're like a totem,
Let me explain.
like a.
Yeah, well, let me explain. Like, their brand isn't the priority. Oh, wait, I don't know. I guess I'd have to ask him, but he changed his name. Oh, here. Here, I've got the book here.
And the name of the book is
Transfigurations by Alex Gray. Really interesting book if you haven't checked it out.
Looks like it's got a lot of great sketches and photos.
Yeah.
Paintings. Kind of like a...
Yeah, really interesting story. He used to work at a morgue, and then got caught up in some suicidal thoughts, and then had his name's not in here. Where is it? Interesting. It doesn't say his name, dude. I cannot find it. Well, he had a really weird name. It was hard to remember. Not nearly as easy to remember as Alex Gray, but it's a call to how he had an LSD trip, and it was so crazy that he decided that it was his job in life to merge the dark and the light via artistic expression of the divine, and him and his wife have been doing that, and they're creating a temple right now. But that kind of change to your personality, I felt like wasn't necessary for me, as I already had some weird name that meant a lot.
My initials spell asthma.
No way.
Yeah, AZMH, asthma. Yeah, dude. It's got that cough at the end of it.
I have asthma. Maybe you can hear me wheezing. Yeah, that was both my lungs wheezing at once.
I'm so sorry, man.
Yeah.
How do you even play bass?
I just hold my breath, and then I'm like, all right, breath, I'm gonna let you out, but then I'm gonna hold you again, and I'm gonna slap the bass in the middle.
Slapping the bass.
To be honest, having asthma has been another challenge in my life that has brought me closer to my understanding of the work that I need to do as a person on Earth right now. Because I used to really hate God, your God, for for giving me asthma. But then I realized that having that level of disconnect from my breath for so many years gave me a real solid idea of how important it is to have your breath.
Yeah. Right?
Yes. In meditation, your breath is a very important method, and it's a very popular method for maintaining higher realms of consciousness by flooding your brain with oxygen. Now, I think that there's even science being put out there about this kind of method, and it's by this man named Wim Hof, who's discovering that you can actually store oxygen in your body above what is thought to be 100% blood oxygen level, that you can actually go beyond what you need to be healthy, and in doing so, healthen your immune system, hold your breath for longer amounts of time. But his work, I've watched a few documentaries, though it does involve a lot of breath work, where you're making your body breathe a certain way using the muscles in your torso. Mm-hmm. It takes concentration and awareness of the breath's effect on the body. And that information is priceless today. I mean, maybe I'm just some asthma dude who's breathing fine today, but breathing's really important for being calm and making good decisions.
Right? It's like your list of needs, right? First we have to have the basics like food, water, oxygen, then maybe comes like clothing and shelter, right? And then after that, I don't know, community, right?
Community's high up there, man.
Yeah, I don't know. They're
community can take care of a lot of those things.
Yeah.
Community's unavoidable if you're going to survive. Like, try isolating yourself forever.
People can do it. Just because Chris McCandless didn't do it very well doesn't mean
too soon, man.
It can't be done.
You shouldn't even be laughing. Oh my goodness. The reason that's not funny is because my roommate just crashed his bus into the woods. Oh, that's another podcast. That's a whole other podcast. Trust me. Bless that man, Jason Jagoda. Bless him. Like, there's a bus in the woods now. Like, someone can go into the wild in my backyard. I could help him. Like, just think if he into the wilded into my backyard. Into the Wild.
Was that both of your lungs again?
Yeah, I don't know what that was. Some new disease called
Lung palpitation.
It's so funny. Goodness gracious. To think that all this from breath work. To be honest, I'm focusing on my breath when we play music, man. I think that the whole push and pull aspect of music is a call to the reality of breath. And I think that the ocean's current is another fractal out example of like a breath.
I'm pretty sure I don't pay attention to my breath at all.
Isn't that
I have
interesting?
to let that go.
Isn't that interesting?
To really tap into what I'm doing.
Only if you want to tap in this much. No. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
In, 2, 3, 4.
Out, 2, 3, 4. Tap in. 1, 2. I digress, dude. To be honest, I feel like I would trade asthma for quite a bit, though. To be honest, like there are some times where I was really suffering and afraid, and man, it just shaves years off your life. And my whole hope is to not have to use medicines outside of organic stuff to deal with it. But in allergy season here in Austin, it gets humid and the cesspools froth. They froth.
Boil over.
That's the noise they make. Which is also the noise of leather couch cushions rubbing together. Weird. Okay, so Zach, let me ask you this: what kind of music did you like to listen to going through high school?
It shifted a lot. I listened to a lot of 3 Days Grace and Breaking Benjamin and The Used. But I was also really into classical music. I was raised on pretty much Christian music and classical music going to sleep until I was in like middle school. And yeah, but starting around middle school is when I started branching out and developing my own tastes. And I don't know, I really liked the Smashing Pumpkins a lot. I really liked the Foo Fighters. I don't know, just pretty popular,
But did you listen to Tool?
Bands. I didn't discover Tool until after high school, honestly.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Really?
Missed out of the formative years of my drumming.
No, you're lucky, dude. You're lucky. That's 4 years extra that you weren't waiting for the best album ever. Where you were just ignorant and blissful.
Yeah.
Of the.
I think I knew they existed. My dad had talked about them. My father introduced me to a lot of music, but he was like, "Hey, don't worry about them. They're all right." And so I was like, "Okay, I'm not missing much,
Fair enough.
I think the first song that I heard on the radio that really gripped me before I knew who it was The Pot. And I was really getting into the groove and started singing along to what I could, and and then figured out who it was, and then started churning through their discography and figuring out what I liked, And
That's a good discography to go through, man. Like, that's one of those discographies where if you like hard music and, you got some gym work to do, or not, I wouldn't listen to the first couple of Tool albums if you needed to file paperwork, or you might, who knows, dude, who knows. All I know is that band is very diverse from start to finish, and to be honest, I know we both love them.
Tool's great.
Yeah, Tool is awesome. We could talk about them all day, dude. Like, I know I could. In fact, sometimes, like, honestly, I don't because I know I could. You know, like, in public, I kind of just...
And the fact that I didn't made me feel better about it.
I'm like, I don't even want to go there, man. I don't even want to go there. No, on a real level, though, Tool has helped me through some dark times. That band has a creative way of running people through the machine of antagonizing life that teaches us through experience. You know, like, some people take psychedelics to go through these weird micro-traumatic experiences where they go have a bad trip, and then in the bad trip, I mean, if you've been in one, then you know the only way out of the bad trip is through good intentions, man, because you steer away from the mindset of being in a swampy bog thing. And for some people, that swampy bog thing isn't in a mental psychosis that's been induced by a certain substance. It's addiction or bills or depression. Oh, depression. You know, it's weird. I feel like I know more people who are open about having depression now than I thought. And I've talked about this with people before about what the difference between depression and grief is. But it's like, man, if I don't have compassion for the people who are telling me that they feel depressed because I know I have depression. Sometimes. Not all the time. It's that there was a time where I was depressed all the time, and that was about, you know, it was about 3 years ago, man.
I've had a couple depressive periods that are affected by various situations that I allow to eat at me. One of my first band that I was in is called Subspace, and one of the song lyrics that my friend Alex wrote was, "My problem is that I let my problems take control," and that's kind of a big thing, man. It's pretty poignant.
Man, that's meta as fuck. My problems. You know what? I love this saying from Timothy Leary, which is that we don't have a problem, all we need is a plan.
Yeah.
I think that's true, man. I think it's true. You know, we were talking about music earlier, and how it helps us function. Basically. You know, I mean, I'm at the point with music to where if I don't play music, I become neurotic.
I don't know that I've ever stopped drumming for any consistent amount of time for longer than maybe a couple hours. I'm always tapping on something. I'm always making noise or humming or incessantly, constantly, unceasingly making noise. And I might not have played the drums for a long period of time, but that doesn't mean that I haven't been making music.
And you know what? I think about that every time I'm playing music here at my house. I think about how, like, we're playing the same song right now. Isn't that trippy? Like, wherever you are, you're banging on something, and wherever I am, I'm banging on something. Yeah. And how we, like, bring the music together when we have band practices, and, you know, I mean, even this podcast is a jam session.
Yeah, for sure. Instruments of the mind. Jamming on grooves.
You know, if anything's an instrument of the mind, it's the body. Your body is the instrument that your brain has, right? And I know I'm just screaming at you, but I'm actually just trying to speak my truth, but it's true, you know, like your body is like the guitar that your mind gets to shred when it's time. You know?
I feel like your mind is the instrument getting shredded by whatever it is that we are, right? Like,
how so? You mean like we harm it, or
no? As in, like, you are not your body. I mean,
yeah, you're right, but you're not just your mind either.
Yeah.
Well, wait.
I
think personally that the mind does contain the stimulations of the body, and I think that the body does exist.
Yes. But
I think that the mind exists more, if that makes any sense. I think that the imagination is greater than or equal to reality. And I've created a painting, so I have math to prove this.
Are you gonna show it to the crowd?
I've made a graph. I've made a mathematical chart to prove my theory. Here it is. What do you think? What do you think?
It's very yin-yang.
Weird.
It's very dichotomized and polarized, right? Because you've got all your black and white going on over here, and then all your multicolored, faceted rainbows and intertwining patterns, and then each word is kind of like the opposite dot, whereas imagination is on the black and white side and it's colored, and reality is on the other side. It's very, I don't know, dichotomistic. That's not a word, but I just said it.
I like that, dichotomistic.
Yeah.
Dichonistic.
Dichotomistic. And then there's another one going, instead of horizontally, it's going vertically. I don't know.
This was one of the first paintings I made when I decided to be a painter most of the time.
When was this?
I want to say that was back in 2016.
Okay.
So like, very early, when I didn't know what I was doing. I used acrylic paints on this, and I actually didn't use water throughout the entire process except to clean my brushes, because I had watched a video on YouTube that said not to use water in the paint, but the video was about oil paints, and I hadn't yet known the difference between oil and acrylic paints.
Word.
Which, there's a big difference if you don't know already. Do yourself some favors. And go research the difference.
Do some research.
Oh, man. To be honest, I began painting strictly from passion. Like, I really wanted to just get these ideas out. Yeah. But choosing to do that was the best thing. I started that painting at Create Culture. That was the first painting I ever made at Create Culture. Yep, I started it there that night. And now we're having a co-creation music festival, like, 2 years later. It's hard to believe, right? This co-creation music festival is really going to raise the bar for us in terms of what we can accomplish as a community. A team of people has really come together on a consistent level every week to make sure that this is the best thing we can provide for people. I hear that when you're organizing a festival, it's your job to make sure they're having a good time at your expense, not the opposite.
Yeah.
And then that kind of energy put into the world is what a successful festival makes. That's where you really get the people who are coming back home with something. The more the experience can
grow, develop,
grow and develop
build on its own.
Through really connecting with people, because you've worked hard and you've given them something as art. This grand gesture is for you.
I mean, somebody's got to do it, right? Life can be rough sometimes. It's kind of a slog sometimes. It can feel like that, and it requires energy to do things.
Yeah.
For most people. I mean, some people can put in very little energy and just get mountains of feedback, and maybe it's just luck, and maybe it's
blessings.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. It's really cool. Well, what were we talking about?
Co-Creation Music Festival.
Yeah, let's get back to that.
I'm stoked because I'm the workshop coordinator for that festival.
What does that entail?
Basically, all the propaganda for the festival that could be inferred will be spoken in one of the workshops.
Okay.
If you were curious to hear what, if anything, this was about, it would probably be spoken in one of the workshops. Let me just say. Because the people who want to talk about what's going on there are going to talk about it. And they're going to do it in a really interesting way. So far, we've got a lot of different workshop categories decided. Just off the top of my head, I can remember Ableton workshops, dance and movement workshops, poi workshops. There's going to be philosophy workshops, spiritual workshops, shrimp gumbo, shrimp sandwiches. Well, and that's about it.
Shrimp stew.
Oh, how could I forget shrimp?
Fried shrimp.
Oh,
shrimp scampi.
Well, I'm really just scratching the shrimp surface, aren't I? Surface shrimp.
Surface shrimp.
Surface shrimp. There's going to be a magic workshop, but I really want to teach a Magic the Gathering workshop, too.
Whoa.
What do you think? Is that crazy?
No, I would love to see a Magic the Gathering workshop.
Will you think about helping me teach that?
Whoa, yeah, absolutely. I would love to teach people the fine fun of Magic.
Well, y'all heard it here, people. I've just confirmed a Magic the Gathering workshop for Co-Creation Music Festival. Damn, son, where'd you find this one? Yes, much whoop. If you're into whooping, whoop whoop. Never really been a juggalo, but I realized that all my friends who have Hatchet Man tattoos, who regret it and want it to be a more hip, but still just as memey as it was before, they could easily just tattoo a portal in front of Hatchet Man and turn Hatchet Man into a Rick, jumping through a portal.
Right.
It works, trust me.
And just like update your tattoos through like all the modern like trends as you're going like each generation.
Oh, here we go. Why don't we just invent a subscription of socially current tattoos so that once a year you get the most socially current tattoo you can fucking imagine.
Whoa.
Right? You know what I mean? So like 1 year it's like, when the Olympics happen, everybody gets an Olympics tattoo.
Right.
And so people, when they find you and you've been mummified, they're like, oh, this guy knew what was up. And if you're naked and your corpse has no tattoos, you'll be frowned down upon and your body will be incinerated because only the most interesting skins will be displayed at the museums.
What if I don't want my skin displayed at museums? What if I want to be eaten by the earth and consumed for the future growth of the planet?
This isn't a politics podcast, Zach. I'm just kidding, dude. Oh yeah, back to the poop that just like feeds everything. I mean, how lucky are we that poop is kind of good for nature, bad for our noses, good for nature. Isn't that funny that it's bad for our nose in a way that where we just put it in nature? We're like, get this shit out of here. Go throw that outside. That's like poop anywhere that's not outside is bad. It's like unless you're really sick.
No.
You're really sick. You need to get help if you like poop that much. Like that. Oh, back in that Rick and Morty episode. How long are y'all eat poop? Goodness. Please don't.
We got a court order. You can't eat poop anymore.
Can I even say that? Is Cartoon Network gonna sue me? Who knows? Dan Harmon.
Please don't.
Please make a 4th season.
Hey, make some more Harmon Quest while you're at it.
Dungeons and Dragons, dude.
Yep.
Hell no. He recently, I think he might be kind of under the radar for a minute. He recently kind of admitted to having some malplay or misconduct with former female co-workers, and but at least he had the balls to come out and just say it. You know, like, at least he wasn't just like ratted on like most of these dudes. You know what I mean? Like Bill Cosby, like, he never just was like, well, Bill Cosby, like, dug his shit deep. Like,
I was about to say,
he was like, he pushed the fucking button.
There were episodes of the Bill Cosby Show where he had his barbecue sauce that put everybody to sleep. It was a good time barbecue sauce.
Oh, I gotta watch that.
Yeah.
Dang,
and then they're like,
hey, oh, dude, is it too late to make Bill Cosby barbecue sauce codeine?
Whoa.
I'm just kidding, man. Too soon. All right.
Yes. The answer is yes.
Okay, yeah, word. It is, yeah. Oh, that settles that. So, there's one more thing I wanted to ask you about, Zach.
Yeah.
Now, you worked at the Alamo Drafthouse for how many years?
2 on and off.
Okay, so tell the microphone people, for those of us who don't know what the Alamo Drafthouse is, what is the Alamo Drafthouse?
It's a movie theater chain that started in Austin, Texas, that serves food and beverage. You can get alcoholic drink or not. It's got a whole range of your typical movie theater foods, like maybe hot dogs or popcorn, pretzels. But then it's also got things like, I don't know, chips and queso and burgers and salads and wraps and all kinds of stuff.
All right. So basically comfort food.
Yeah. And you go and have dinner and a show, and they also provide, like, I don't know, community things. They have, like, screenings outdoors and, I don't know, all kinds of fun stuff. Like, they have Jaws on the water where you have tubes and you go float on the river and watch Jaws on a giant movie screen.
And that's in Austin, right?
Yeah.
So, the perks of working at the Alamo Drafthouse were you gotta see free movies, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, free movies and +1, and I could usually get, I don't know, if we had open seats, we could get a couple people in. But it had to be, you know, manager approved and make sure everybody knows about it and it's all on the level.
So how many feature films did you see as a result of that through that 2-year stint?
Ooh, a whole lot. I can't even tell you, man. I would see movies that I liked 2 or 3 times just because I could.
Well, I just mean, like, in, you know, like, how many movies, like, if you took a DVD home of the movie that you watched, not how many times did you watch that movie. Although I commend you for sitting through multiple movies, like, you know, had you seen 5 movies, 10 movies, 20 movies, like, how many movies came through the Alamo Drafthouse in that time that you watched?
20, 30, 40. It's up. I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you.
Okay, so you've seen more movies than a lot of people I know, I guess is the point I'm trying to make right now.
Yeah, okay.
And the reason I've asked and bring this up is, did you ever think that there was a bit of... Do you ever think that there was a bit of cultural manipulation through the cinema?
Absolutely. I mean, you're spending a lot of time and money in there, right? Because you go in and on your days off, yeah, you can see a free movie and everything's half off, but you're still spending the money that you earned there to go in and sort of, like, I don't know, spend your time and energy feeding into something that you'll tell people about, that you'll bring other guests to, you know, and it's very word of mouth and very, I don't know, self-contained almost in its effectiveness. And some people can get out, but a lot of people would just spend time after work, at work, hanging out and, you know, drinking on the patio because you get, you know, half off shift drinks, and that's more money spent into the corporation that you're earning from them, or that you should be earning from them.
Yeah, totally. Keeps it all in the family, so to say.
Yeah.
So, was there a specific movie that you felt had some weird concepts inside it that were directed at the public in a sense that they wanted to implement an idea into the public that wasn't there before.
Yeah, the immediate thing that sprang to mind was The Congress.
What's that movie?
Oh, man. It's a movie about movies. Yeah.
That's meta as fuck.
Yeah. And Robin Wright stars as herself, and she hasn't made any movies since way back when, and Miramax, I think is the company, I could be wrong, whatever it is, buys her image. They scan her, and they put her image into all the movies that she didn't want to make before. Now she's going to be a quadrillionaire, you know, whatever we looked up, dodecadillionaire.
Dude, it goes up to like scorpionillionaire.
Whoa.
I swear to God.
Right?
I swear.
And so people start to get so involved in these live renderings, these interactive movies, that everything becomes a cartoon, and everybody's sort of invested in this world that they don't really exist in because they're all caught up in what's happening in the artificial world. And I don't know, Ready Player One, right, had some pretty, I don't know, political statements, and I don't know, I haven't read the book, but I'm planning on it. My guitarist recommended it to me before it was a movie, as it goes with the hipster crowd.
Yeah, see, I kind of, I fell off when that one came through the movie theater. I just didn't see it, but I imagine it'll be on Netflix within no time. I'm on the Netflix grind, you know what I mean? Like, I see the old films they're acceptable to me. I don't care about the new movies. Like, they matter as much to me as the old ones. You know.
Go watch some, Judge Dredd.
I don't know what that is. It just sounds funny. That's why I laughed at it.
Oh man, Sylvester Stallone plays like a sci-fi futuristic RoboCop guy.
What the
yeah.
fuck? That sounds nuts, dude.
It's awesome. And then they made a side story of it. Another movie many years later with I don't remember his name. He played Bones in Star Trek, and I don't know. It was a different kind of story. It was kind of a more violent, kill 'em all, shoot up a whole 500-story apartment complex, because there were bad guys in it.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, slavers and stuff.
Do you think that there would ever be some weird drama about, like, a robot police officer? Or do you think there'd be, like humans still policed robots the same way, like in iRobot? You know what I mean? Or, like, which one's more likely? RoboCop, iRobot, or Chappie? That's pretty much what I'm getting at.
Have you seen...
And all of those movies are just different sentient robot movies.
Have you seen Her?
Yeah, I just watched that with my girlfriend Kara, and it was sad, dude. That's a sad movie.
That was a...
Well, actually, wait. Let me rephrase. I started watching that movie and didn't finish it, so I got halfway through and paused it, and I was like, man, this is really fucking sad. And then I finished it and realized it was a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sort of a mirroring or a reflection or a possibility of what's going on, what could happen.
Do you think you'd try it?
What, the robot dating simulator?
Uh-huh.
Probably. I don't know. Maybe for a little bit, but I don't know. It's very strange. I'm a very physical person. I like to grow things organically through spending time with another person, and I get that you can simulate that, but I'd rather build something in a community, even if I'm not in a romantic relationship. I'd rather develop my time into other people that are growing, and I'm not necessarily sure that AI is worth that much of my time, even though I spend a lot of my time in other forms of media, And
I guess this all just swings back full circle to that question about drum machines. And how in music, all too often, I find myself being over analytical of the musicians I play with, because I'll have been in the studio making electronic music all day on this pre-programmed 4x4 perfect beat that's like everything could be manipulated immediately, and then I go from that to my band where there's 3 humans with the same amount of problems, it seems like, except me, of course. I'm kidding. I probably have twice as many. The control aspect leaves me, and it flows into the sonic structure that we're creating, like, it's only a third my responsibility, it's a third your responsibility, it's a third Michael's responsibility, and anybody else who comes aboard that jam space time bus, they're equally respected and responsible for holding space for people's consciousness through experimental music. The reality is that I like playing drums with you way more than just sitting at home alone trying to make a perfect drum beat. That's the truth.
I think that's because one idea, one person, one view can't really paint a full reflection of nature as music kind of does or strives to do, and you need multiple facets to kind of bounce ideas off of each other and grow and change and learn just like life does.
That organic thing that is instrumental music, that is like an organism that's alive. But that's just because my overactive imagination thinks so.
I think music is a bit of magic in and of itself, where you channel a tiny little bit of energy into something that may extrapolate and expand outward and affect people in ways that you don't even know.
So you think magic is real?
Absolutely.
You believe in magic and God?
Yeah,
Do you believe in the magic of God?
Absolutely.
That's interesting. I wonder where the territory on that is right now. Where, like, is there actively something that is a culmination of the two dichotomies of Christian monotheism and magic, which is like power, and like, this is what we were talking about earlier, was how there's a balance between the best good and the worst bad, and how the yin yang of that all could be explained as simply male or female opposites, whereas one comes from the other totally, until the beginning of the mystery of it all, which no one really understands, but everyone kind of agrees that what anybody thinks happened is ridiculous.
Something happened.
I don't think so. No, I disagree. Nothing happened.
You think everything just is?
I'm just playing. I'm just entertaining right now. Something's definitely happening, but by the time you die, nothing happened. I think, because if it does just fade out, it's interesting, because I think about it in terms of karma, because the whole thing about leaving this world would be that you die twice. You die when your body leaves, but then you die a second time when your name is forgotten from all of the collective consciousness, and like there's not a book written about you or anything like that. At that point, then you're truly forgotten, and that concept of you having existed in history is gone. Then apparently that's when the karma of it all can turn into another life at some other level, I think. But this whole, like, clinging to our relatives who have passed thing, I think it's doing a disservice to any remaining consciousness that they may have. Now, I'm not saying I'm a median for dead souls. All I'm thinking is how I would feel if it was me who was dead and all my loved ones were just sad I wasn't there, instead of, you know, happy with the things I gave them while I was present, or was able to, or, you know, gift them outside of money things. Wow, thank you, I just ranted hard. Whew. Are you okay?
Yeah. I kind of wanted to say a couple things, but I lost them.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, my bad. We need more hand signals, I guess.
I don't know. I think you're not forgotten when your name is forgotten. I think that all of the energy that you put into other people or other things, the way that your actions affect their actions and their dispositions in general, whether people realize it or not, is the continuation of you and your energies that you've channeled. I don't think we ever truly die, because we're all life. It all came from one, whatever it is, source of energy. You know, and so I don't think we necessarily die in a way that a lot of people think we do, because it's constant. It's a rebirth and death cycle. I think I said it. We are permutations of the past. Like, I don't know.
It sounds like you certainly know a lot, Zach. Let me just say.
I don't know about that. I think a lot. Doesn't mean I know anything.
Well, did you just let your secret out? You know people are going to think you're smart now, right?
I don't need that.
So you can write, "I'm smart" on your resume now.
Nah, dude, I need that pressure in my life.
I'm kidding, man. Very wise. Very wise. You must have had some really cool people in your life to have learned such awesome things. I certainly feel inspired about that. And to be honest, I couldn't imagine having a better second episode to the Tap In podcast than the drummer in the band Tap. We're planning a show soon. We're still dialing in all of the specifics as the venue, because we want it to be as perfect as we can. And it's going to be a really, really special thing that is going to be a new spin on how music is presented to the public. And I'm going to try to do my best. No, but for real. I got to do my best to be humble and not so intense all the time. Man. Then again, I decided to keep my name as War Dude. Right? We were... Fuck.
It seems like there's a bit of intention there.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm always thinking what I should change it to, so if anybody's got a suggestion, throw them at me,
Why would you
man.
change it? It's your name. It's your mantle. Keep it.
Hey, dude, if something comes across that's just like, oh, that's it, I'll do it. Maybe I'll change my name to Pat.
Pat backwards.
Yeah, Pat backwards. You got it. Oh, okay. Guys, thank you so much for listening. There's going to be more episodes soon. Definitely more with Zach. Thank you so much for coming, man. I love you so much. You're a great spirit. I will forever envision you as like an ephemeral, archetypal coalition of mighty powers that keep things just right. Thanks, man.
Sounds like a shaman. I'll almost take that. I'll take that. That sounds good.
It is
Thanks
yours,
for
my
having
friend.
me.
Oh yeah, dude. Honestly, thank you.